Yeah. So hello, and so is everyone here?
Yeah.
So welcome to DevCloud's fourth session on JavaScript. So in the first session, we had asked you to make such a web page using HTML and CSS. And you must have noticed that this was very static. Like this did not have any function. It was just displaying the information. Like as I said, HTML was for displaying what the content is, and CSS was how you're going to display it. Now we are going to introduce JavaScript so you can make the web page do something and add more functionality to it. And that functionality can be anything like, let's say you want to change the element based on how the user is interacting with the web page. Like maybe I want that this thing should come and go on how the user is clicking it. And let's say you want to fetch some data from other website, and you want to maybe send some data to another website. And also if you want to do some calculator, yes, I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. And also if you want to do some calculation or something, then you should use JavaScript. So you can see it is it is an interpreted language, and it can be run on many environments. Like the most basic environment to run is on a let's say a web page. So like you can just include a JavaScript right in a script tag like this, and also you can attach it on like a link. Like most of the websites you do this. Like let's say you're here, then it will have these scripts as JavaScript, and the actual file is somewhere like here. Like let's say this is the JavaScript file, and it is attached like this. And otherwise, JavaScript can also be run on a backend like on Node.js. So basically, what Node.js does is it allows you to run JavaScript on on a machine outside of a browser. So this can basically run on a server, and this is a very popular library which allows you to make web servers online. JavaScript also runs can be used to make these desktop apps using Electron. So even your Visual Studio and your WhatsApp web and your this Microsoft Teams is made on JavaScript. And even you can make mobile apps using JavaScript using React Native. So I think you can see how ubiquitous JavaScript is, and you can run it everywhere. And similarly, there are many JavaScript libraries which make your work easier. Like there's this Pop.js which is used along with Bootstrap for these effects, like you want to maybe show this or that. And also there are many JavaScript libraries like charges which make your stuff life easier. Like if you want to make a chart on your web page, this includes a lot of calculations and all. So this helps you visualize your data. Like you have some data and you want to manipulate it using JavaScript and then display it using this library. And also there is this TensorFlow.js which allows you to actually do machine learning using JavaScript. Like if you have made a web page and on the front end itself you want to maybe do something like, let's say you can capture the camera of a person using the browser's webcam, and then you can access it using JavaScript and also run a machine learning on it. Like you can see many of these demos. Yeah. So let's jump to the basics of JavaScript, and we are going to start using JavaScript on the console. Like to run JavaScript on the console. Like I hope first of you have understood the relevance of JavaScript, and you can maybe ask in the chat if you have any doubts. Yeah. So let's see how you can run JavaScript on the Chrome console. Like you click on inspect, or maybe from here you can go to tools and then select developer tools. You get this developer tab. Now you can stretch it out and go to console. Now this console actually executes a JavaScript code like an interpreter. Like let's say 1 plus 1. This is actually doing this in JavaScript, like 1 plus 1. Yeah. And just like a programming language, the JavaScript has many constructs like let's say variables. I can write let a equal to 1. Sorry, let x equal to 1. And you can access the value of x. Maybe you can increase the value of x, like x equal to x, let's say 5. So this is how a variable works. And similarly, you can keep variables for strings and arrays. Like this, 1 is a number, 5 is a number. But if you want, you can let's say let 2 equal to Aditya. So this is a string, and what a string is it's a collection of characters, and which has many useful features with it. And similarly, you can have arrays like let array equal to. This array is basically a list of many other variables, and you can also have array of arrays like let- let's say and let's say you have another array inside that array, which is comma b. So you can notice that you can keep actually different type of variables inside an array. Like in C and other languages, you must have seen that you need to have the same data type in the array. But in JavaScript, you can have anything. You can do anything like that. Like let's see this array one. It was this, and you can access each element like this, like array one, two. This gives you the that element. And similarly, if you have a two-dimensional array, you can use like it like this. When you do this, 0, this gives you the zeroth element of that array, 0, 1, 3. And if you do this gives you the first element of that array, like 1. And similarly, you can access the second element of that array. Yeah. And also I have included such an example in the code itself. Okay. Why is the concept showing undefined? This undefined is basically like the output of that. Like assign this, I'm just assigning a value, so it's not outputting anything. But if let's say I write array one, this is going to output the value of that array. Like the assignment is itself is not giving any output. So I have also given some examples here. So this is an array of array. And let's talk about objects. So an object is a very flexible way to store any data. I can give it any properties in one. Let's say age is 19. So as you can see inside that object, I have made these keys. Like then I can exit it like this. Dot name one. This key will give me the value of that value. Yeah. And similarly, I can do it like this. Object2 dot age. This gives me that value. So I hope you have understood this much. I'm going to check the chat. Mm. So these were the data types in JavaScript, and this is the basics of the data types. There are many different types of data types too. And just like any other language, JavaScript has these if-else statements. Like let's say you and these booleans, like a equal to b is a boolean. So you can check that. Like is 1 equal to 1, it will give a true value. 1 equal to 2, that will give a false value. And similarly for other things, conditions you can put like this. So this is a boolean, and you can obviously compare like that. Let's say 2.5 is true. And then you can use if-else statements also. Like if let's say 4 is less than 5, then okay, let me talk about this. In your JavaScript, you have this console.log function. So this allows you to put anything on this console. Like let's say console.log hello world. Now this is going to print this hello world on your console. So let's say if I want to do 4 less than 5, console.log here. And otherwise, you can also put an else statement, not here. So as you can see, this condition was true, so it outputted here. Otherwise, it would have outputted not here. And similar to this console.log, you have another option. Let's say alert. So let's say alert hello world. Now this actually gives this pop-out kind of thing on your web page. Like this page says hello world. So you must have seen this on many web page sites. Like sometimes they give you this pop-up which says this page is saying this. So that is basically an alert. Otherwise, it's not a very good practice to use it actually. And in JavaScript, this semicolon is actually optional. It allows you this flexibility. Like you can put hello world and with a semicolon and without it also. And that is true for all commands. Like if I just write 1 equal to 1, then this also works. And without the semicolon also it works. Yeah. And the semicolon is just for when you have to write the same thing in a line and just for the cleanliness of the syntax. Like if you are in a and also like other programming languages, JavaScript has a while and for loop. Let's say while, let me create a variable for like x equal to 5, um, equal to 5, while x3 is greater than 0. I'm going to maybe x equal to x3 equal to x3 minus 1. So it ran that loop this many times, and let me even log this value each time. Like yeah, dot log x3. So now I have now logged this value. So as you can see, wait, this doesn't work because now the value was already 0. So I'm going to set this value again to let's say 5. I'm going to run this loop again. So as you can see, it ran that loop this many times, and it was outputting the value each time. And similarly, you can have the for loop, like for let I equal to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. You can let's say I, let's say I into I. I'm printing the square root. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, console.log is similar to a print statement in your Python and like your cout in your C++. Mm. And let's say you have an array. I have this array. Now I want to iterate through all these elements. So I can do that using a for loop simply like this. To like array.length gives me the length of this array. Like this has 5 elements, so the length will be 5. So I will do this. Let I equal to 0, I less than array dot length I plus plus dot log. Let's say I into I into I. I'm printing as cube of the value. Actually, yeah. Let me just print that value right now. This. So this is printing each value of that array. And similarly, I can do this for the other one. Let's say I had this array 2, which I defined earlier. Yeah. So this is giving the individual array in that two-dimensional array, which I defined here. And also strings have many useful functions in JavaScript. Like I say this string, let's say quit brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Let me assign this somewhere like let s equal to this. Now when I do s, it has many functions like I can access many functions on it like this, like anchor, add, bold, char add. Like I can use this to find the char at some position. Like the fourth character from here is I. And similarly, like this, the s line gives me the length of that string. And it has one of the most interesting functions is this s dot split. Now I'm going to use the splitter or separator like this. Like if my separator is a space, then it is going to split that string into using this space character. Now from that string I have got that this array. Like it went it saw A, it made it in the first array, then saw that space. Now it has breaking the string into another element. It's like a quick brown fox. You've got these things. So I hope you can understood the string functions like this. And similarly, you have this, and you can join a array using us to a string. Like I had this array, array two, array one. Yeah. Now if I write array one dot join, this actually gives me a string which will have joined that array. Like let's say this using this separator. Then this has joined the elements of that array using this. What do they call it? And a separator. Yeah. And also s dot slice. This is a very useful function. It gives you the string from the starting character to the ending character. Like the third character was starts from here, and the 10th character ends still here. So it will give you this substring. So I hope you're understanding the string functions now. I'm going to check the chat. And also there are functions in you can create functions in JavaScript. Like let's say function, let's call it my function. Then you can pass it some value. Let's say let's square it. Square this. This is my function name. I'm going to pass it a parameter. Let's say a, and then this is going to return a into a. So next time I call this square this, let's say 5. This I return 25. And this is a very useful way to make your code very structured and also very maintainable. And also for JavaScript, you can call it using the buttons. It's like I have this button element, and when I click on increment on click, then we'll call the increment function, which I have defined here. I have this increment function like here. Like when I press increment, it has incremented like this. Like I clicked a button, and it has taken this value like this. Let me also talk about the DOM manipulation. So in the last session, you have seen that there are these HTML elements here. Let me open some other website like this. So each of these element can be selected, and you can modify it using JavaScript. So for selecting an element, we are going to use the CSS selectors using this command, document.query selector. And when I pass body into this, this will select the body element. I hope you remember the CSS selectors. Yeah. So from this element, I have many properties here. You can see like I can see this append property. I have this inner text property, inner text. This gives me the text inside of that element. If I write, let's say, dot inner HTML, this actually gives me the whole HTML of the inside that element. Like I had this was my element. So inner HTML will return all the content inside that element. Or let me take some smaller element like this. Yeah. So I'm going to select this using the query selector. Document.query selector. For the class, my selector is dot. So let me just copy like this. Dot text to HTML. So this has selected that HTML element. Now I can access many properties of this like in HTML. So this is giving the HTML code which was inside of that element. And similarly, I can see dot inner text. This gives the text inside of the element. And as you can see, it has converted the BR into /n, and /n means the next line character. So like, let me compare here. Yeah. So like /n means first the next line, and then again next line. So let's say I want to change this. So I can just do the inner text equal to new text. So as you can see, this inner text has changed. So just like this, by using JavaScript, you can change these elements like on any web page. And similarly, I have this outer HTML property, outer HTML. So as you can compare here, the inner HTML was giving the inside of that. The outer HTML gives you the wrapping of that HTML. Like I have this thing, yeah. So it's almost like this. This whole thing is coming in the outer HTML part. So let's say I want to maybe remove this element or maybe replace it by something else. Let's say outer HTML equal to div. I replace this element. And let me even make it a button so it becomes more apparent. Let me keep the class name same. So see, I have replaced that element using this command. So this was actually a JavaScript command which replaced that element. And I can even make it go away. Like let me do it like this. Yeah, do this. So this is gone. So like if you're having a web page and you need to maybe access some element, you can do it easily using JavaScript. And even you can access the value of anything of this. Like I have this selector. And also for selecting, let me show you this trick. Like you select this, you see this arrow command here. Yeah. Yeah. You see this arrow and you can just select like this. So after selecting, this will come at as this, like $0. So this $0 accesses the element you have just selected. So if I write $0 dot value, this is the value of that field. If I just change this value, let's say I write 9 here. So this value is going to change to 9. In fact, you can change the value programmatically too. Like let me write here into 22. So you can see the value has changed. And you can try doing this on many other websites too. Yeah. And also if you have a link, let's say this link, then you can also access the href using JavaScript. So you can see all the properties here. Like these are the standard properties of any JavaScript element, HTML element. But we are interested in this one, href. So this gives you the link which that anchor tag was pointing to. So you can even change this link if you want to. But this is very helpful when if you have let's say many links on the website and you want to just scrape it. So let me show you one thing. Document.query selector all. Now this query selector all command actually allows you to select all the elements which are matching that criteria. Let's say this. So this gives me all the links on that web page. And this is a node list. List is similar to an array, and it also has this cool feature. Let me show you a normal for loop on this. Let's say let my array equal to this. It's a list. Yeah. So you can use the for loop on this, like the normal one. I less than list dot length I plus plus console dot log list I dot href. So as you can see, it has given me all the links on the web page. So I hope you have understood this much. Yes. But you have a let's say a shorthand syntax for this. So let's say I've got this node list. Yeah. If I write this for each, this is actually a function which which ha- which has this a. Yeah, let's copy this. Yeah. So basically, this is a function which takes a as a parameter, and then it is doing this console.log on it, like this. So this comes very handy when you have to change many things on a file. Like you can just write for each, and then you can just write the function for it. Yeah, this is a lambda function. So I think if you had call 100 last time, you must have learned about these. Like here is the lambda, and you can just write a lambda function on it. And this is actually a very, let's say, a flexible syntax. You can also make it a normal like this, and you can make it do many things. Like let's say console.log a dot other problem inner text. I also want to console.log the inner text, so I can do it like this. So let's say this is the function inside the brackets. Yeah. Mm. And also I can use this JavaScript to change the style property of that element. Like let's say I have this document dot query selector body. Now I can access the style from here. These are the style properties of that element. Like there are many of these. But what we're interested in is, let's say, the background color. So now currently this is not been set, but you can just set it right here. Then let's say zero. Let me do some other color. Let's say CCC. This is the color code. So I hope you remember the color code from CSS. So this is going to be something like a gray shade. When I write this, it has changed the background color here of that body element. And similarly, you can also change the, let's say, the font size equal to 10. That did not make a difference because each element was having their own font sizes, so the body did not make a difference. Yeah. And also you can click a button in JavaScript. Like let's say you have this submit. So if I write, yeah, this was my element, submit element. If I write dot click, this is a function which actually makes this button click. This I click that element. Yeah. So I hope you have understood this much. I'm going to check the chat again. Yeah. You can also change the class name if you want. Like let's say add that element. Yeah, this one, text HTML. Dot. You have this class name as property. So you can just let's say text to HTML, and I'm going to add another class, my class. Yeah. So the class has changed. So, so maybe, yeah, you can see it here also. You have changed the class using HTML, the JavaScript. Mm. And also, let's say you want to make a timer on your, you may want to make a timer on your web page. So we have this set interval. So this takes a function, which let me define the function first. Function my f, and I'm going to define it as console.log hello. Hmm. Now I can write set interval. I pass this function and I set some timer. So every 1 second, this is going to execute this myf function. They say hello, hello, hello. It is actually executing this these many times. And also this has returned me the ID of that interval. So if I want, I can write create an interval and then one. So this has stopped that interval right here. Hmm. So I have this maybe a time. I can make a timer using this. I have written a function here. It's a timer increment. And this first selects this timer element, and then it takes the inner text, converts into a number, and then adds 0.1 to it. So if I press the timer here, you can see it has changed the values. Yeah. Mm. And along with the JavaScript, there is also an interesting thing called JSON. So like, let me say I had this element, this array, and I want to share this with someone else. So I can just write JSON.stringify object. So this has converted my JSON object, which was this thing, to a string. So I can just share this string with anyone else, so they can know the structure of this object correctly. And this works on other types of elements too. Like if I had an array, yeah, this was my array, and I ran JSON.stringify on it. So this has stringified it into a string. And let's say someone gave me this string. Now I want to get the object back from it. Then I JSON.parse. I pass the string, and this gives me that array. So JSON is actually a very convenient tool for transferring information from one format to another and from one place to another. So let's say if I want to convey some information over the internet, then I will usually send that as a JSON file or in a JSON format. So the other person can just parse it and then use it. So let's say I want to so let's talk about APIs now. So APIs actually help us to, yeah, let me open some API. Like there was this COVID-19 API. So this API actually helps you to get data on coronavirus. You can see here, and this gets the data from this website. You can see the documentation here. So what this basically means is that if you write this, yeah. So this is an endpoint, and that endpoint means that if you make a request to this endpoint, then it is going to give the a response which is specified like this. So as you can see, this is actually a JSON. Yeah, this is a JSON thing which you can see here. Like we made this request, which was given by these headers. Like if I make the request to the path summary, and, and this was my and I got this JSON thing as my response. So this is the whole string, and I can preview from here. So like this has passed that JSON or the string like this. So this gives me data for each country on that day. So I hope you have understood the JSON part of this thing. So please respond in the chat. Yeah. So now I had made the request using my browser manually. If I want my code to make that request, I'm going to use this thing called XML HTTP request. HTTP request. Yeah. So these are objects you can use to interact with servers on a programmatically. Like the JavaScript is making a request and not you manually. So you can read about it here. Yeah. So I can see the documentation here, how to construct it. And these are the functions which are attached to it. So let's say I make an object. So let me call it let request new XML HTTP request. Now I'm going to open that request. The method is going to be get, and the path is going to be this thing. Sorry, this path is a URL string request so dot open. Yeah, yeah, open. You can see the method URL and it says async or not. So you can see the current state of that request. I have opened it, but it's not sent yet. So when I send the request, yeah, request dot send. Then as you can see, I have sent a request here. I can preview it, and I also gotten the response. Now if I want to check the response, I can just write response text or response type. Yeah, response text. So this is actually the host string which was displayed on my web page here. It's like this I had loaded manually and I had to actually go to that web page. And this thing I have loaded using my JavaScript code. And you can see it is a very long string, 51.6 KB. So now if I want to, let's pass it in a JavaScript object. I can just write let parse equal to json.parse request dot response text. I write passed. So this is actually giving me an object, and this object contains the countries and the other data. So I can just now access the data like this: past, date, dot date. I can also write past dot countries, and I can access each country like this. Like this Afghanistan data, this is the data for some other country, and so on. Yeah, even the for each loop works here. So let's say for each country C, I want to log the country name C dot country. I'm not sure this is going to work or not. See, I have put in the list of countries which were in that object. So I have here take some time to understand this command. So this was the past. I saw the countries array. Then for each C is of this format. For each C, I have listed the country. So similarly, I can also list the which is the new total deaths in that country or total confirmed in that country. For going to previous command, I write the plus arrow, c dot was it total confirmed, confirmed. So as you can see, I have printed the values here. And also rather than using the dot operator, you can use the bracket notation, like do this. Sorry. And we also like this. Total confirmed. This has given me the same thing, the same response I've got using this. So I hope you have understood how you are using JSON to make the request. So we can confirm in the chat if you have any doubts. You have understood. And let me go over the other options in the XML request. This is the state of a request. This is the response. And this response can depend on what type of the response you have got. Hmm. And let me also talk about the HTTP status codes. So let me open status codes. Yeah. So basically, if you have 200, that means you have actually gotten the resource correctly. And there are similar ones. 300 means you are getting redirected. Like even in the, I think first session I showed you how Moodle was getting redirected here. So like, show me like this. I wrote, it was giving me this redirect. This is a 303. So that means it is going to some other URL. And then 400 means a bad request, like you did not make the request properly and there was something wrong with it. 404 you must be very familiar with this one. This are not found. And similarly, 500 means that it is the server is not working properly. Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about what synchronous means. Like you must, whenever I had opened this thing, now if I write this whole code, you're going to see a mistake here. Like if I do it one by one, like let me let R equal to HTTP request. Like writing this one below the other, so it executes immediately. R dot open it. it, it. This is first is asynchronous. Send. uh, So as you can see, this did not give me the correct answer. This gave me undefined. But you can see that response text is valid right here. So the reason this happened, we can see it more closely now. Let me just execute the first part of this thing like this. You can also some delay here. It is actually very small, so the delay wasn't very large. So let me pick some bigger file if I can get. Like let me take a bigger one. Yeah. Let me also show you how to get the load a normal file using this. Like on that web page, let me go back to it. You must have seen this John Hopkins CSSC. So basically, they are storing the data in a CSV file on their GitHub. If I go here, let me go to time series. Let me go here, global. It's a very big file, 1.08 MB. Yeah, if I go on view raw, you can see this is a very large file. So if I'm going to load this file on my web page, let me like open this. Yeah, you can see this took some time to get processed. So when I write response text, this is like this, and you can see the time it took. Where does it took here? Like if I write to here timing, then it took me 0.12 millisecond to just send the request, and this browser was waiting for 3.83 milliseconds. So for those if 388 milliseconds, if I try to query this response text in that much time, this is going to give me this blank value, which I had gotten here. Response text, it was blank because I had requested this before that much time. And this is happening because it is asynchronous. Like this true means that this is asynchronous. Like this parameter, you can see this is asynchronous. So if you want to see what asynchronous means, we can just go here where we had opened the request. Asynchronous. Yeah. When the operation is performed asynchronously, it moves to the next one and the operation gets continued. Yeah. The send does not return until the response is received. Hmm. So basically, if you want that the send should return, yeah, wait. If you want that the send to return only after response is received, we have to use synchronous method. So here we have, if we let me go back to my same code which was giving me a wrong answer. Yeah. If I set this to false, so now this is synchronous, then I'm going to get the correct response here. And you can see this took some time to return. Like observe this delay. I will do this again. Yeah, there was a delay. So for you the delay may be very small, but for the code which is processing it continuously, there is very large. So I hope you've understood this much. And similarly, we also have a similar way of fetching things, which is called the fetch command. Like I can just write fetch. Let me await fetch. Let me just write like this. Right. Yeah, I'll do await fetch. Now F1 gives me the response, and I can write F1 dot response, F1 dot text. This gives me the text. So await is a very useful way when you have to use these asynchronous functions, like here. And this works. This is very more convenient to use than this XML HTTP request. So I have you have seen this well. And even for the other commands, you can all there is this cool trick in the Chrome console that you can get the fetch query for each command yourself. Like, let me try here. Mm, Let me show you another API for this example. Like, you must have heard of this COVID API, which was by government. So this was the COVID public API. Yeah, this one. So this is a post API. That means the data is passed in the body. So if I just write try it out, and I'm going to make the request from the portal itself and also see it from my side. Like here, if I write try it out, and then let me let this happen. And then when I write execute, you can see here it has got the execution command and also the response. So you can see how the request went. It was the post request to that URL. It was the response 200. And in the post payload, we had passed this body. Mobile number is this. And we got this transaction ID. Now, and this is a cool trick. If I right click on this and I write copy, and then if I write copy as fetch, this gives me the fetch command which I have given the same response to me. Like this, let me do. Let me just change this number first. Yeah. So this actually includes all the headers that was passed and whatever body it was given. So if I write let's say await fetch, it is going to perform the exact same behavior. Setting not allowed. Let me just remove all extra things. If it has a primary pragma, as control is not allowed. Yeah, see I've gotten this response. So what this API did, it actually sent an OTP to that mobile number when I had sent this request. This is very cool. So you can also try doing it yourself. Like maybe just put your number here and then see how it is actually getting executed. And this is a very classic example of how the authentication works. So I hope this fetch command is clear to you. Let me go through the other things in fetch. Here was, let me just change this number again. Yeah. So basically, the first part of this fetch was telling me that the URL of the resource. These are the headers which I can set. Like I want to accept JSON in my response. The content type means that I'm sending JSON as in my request. These are just for helping the server. The referer means from which website was this request made. Like this, so this time the referer is api2.gov.in, and the body actually sends the main post body. So for generating the body, I can also do it like this: body equal to JSON dot stringify. Let me just read like JSON dot stringify. I first make the object mobile 9870. Yeah. So this is the you can see this is the same string. Yeah. So if I write here like JSON dot stringify this thing, then it should give me the same behavior. Let me write it like here and just change the number again. Yeah, see this gives me the same behavior. And even my network, my request was similar. Like earlier I had given this in my payload, now it's also same. Okay, observe this difference that earlier this was getting passed as a string and now I'm passing this as a number, which is interesting. but still I got the same response. Let me zoom in a bit. Yeah, you can see more clearly now. This was my fetch. So I hope you have understood how to make requests to an API using this fetch and XML HTTP requests. So you can share any doubts in the chat again. And similarly, on there's this postman. So this helps you to document your API properly. So you can just select the language here around this. So it generates what kind of code you want to make to get the response. Like let's say I want to use this API for my country. This. So I just need to copy this code. Just copy. And now this should work and give me the same behavior. Yeah, see, I've gotten this response from that API. Let me just close the tabs now. So now you understood how to make the request from the API. Now let me give you a brief introduction to how to actually make your own API. So an API, for making an API, you need a server, which you can make using Node.js. So I heard you had installed this Node.js. This is a JavaScript runtime based on Chrome's V8. So basically this allows you to run JavaScript on your machine. And on Node.js, we need the Node HTTP package, this one. I will install them. So let me start. Yeah. So for starting, let me go to the folder demo. I'll make a folder for my this demo. Say node demo. We know no. Let me zoom this a bit. It's very small. Node demo. So I'm going to first write npm init. So this has initialized the node project in that folder. I'm just going to keep everything to default. Discussion default. Yeah. Yes. So as you can see in that folder, I've got this package.json. This basically gives me the more information about my project. So I'm going to write here, make a new file here, index.js. So this index.js can actually run any JavaScript code on your browser, on your machine. Console.log, hello world. So if I write node index.js here, you can see hello world. And this can do anything, everything we were doing on the console in your browser. Let's say 1+1, C1+1, I got 2 here. Now for the creating the HTTP server, I'm going to do this. Let me see the documentation here. This is an example. Yeah, you can see here. Const HTTP could require HTTP. So here require HTTP. Now this means that I'm going to load this HTTP package, and then this HTTP will allow me to access that package. So after that, I'm going to this just sets the host name and the port. So actually this 1.127.0.0.1 host name is for the local host. So if you write localhost or this thing that is the same for 3000. So let me just copy this for the demo. Now if I run node index.js, see this. Now my server is running here. If I can just go and click at it, see hello world. And as I told you, if I write localhost 3000, that gives me the same response, hello world. So let's say I want to see what the let's go into this. But if I extract this out, this is a bit messy. Function. So I think this would be easier to understand for you. Yeah. This is the same thing. So how this code is functioning? First of all, I have this my server function, and this my server function takes a request and a response. A response is a parameter. In the response, it is setting the status code to 200. That was okay, as I showed you earlier. This means we have found that, and the content type, the header, and this is the response which is giving. And now my server is using this command http the create server. This server takes that function. Yeah. So basically, on that server, I'm going to listen on this port. This is the 3000 port, and on that host name. So now, and when that server has done, I'm actually giving the response that this is actually running successfully now. This is like a callback function. Let me even make the function separate thing for it. Callback. I can extract it out here. Now this becomes simpler to understand. Yeah. So basically this is the same thing, but I hope this is easier to understand now. See, it is running again. Yeah. I hope you understood the main example here. I've just copied the demo code from the HTTP package. So if you have any doubt regarding Node.js, you can ask right now. So let us go deeper into this. Now let us try to see what this request is. So I'm going to write console.log request. Now this is going to give me a very nice version of this request object, node index.js. Now when I make a request again, I can see all the properties which are associated with that request. That these are too many of them right here. You can see it here, like see, small property, other request. I am more interested in the request, the URL, like this thing. So if I write console.log URL, and I'm going to run this server again. See, this slash means that I have tried to access the slash URL, like this slash. Now, if I wrote something like, let's say, some other path, and I've gotten some other path here. And favicon is this icon thing. So like my browser is trying to get an icon for this thing, but it is not found. So let me try to play with this request.url. So first of all, I'm going to split the slash out of it. Ref log tech.url split slash. So you can see I've got an array of the thing and this some other path. So either I can use this, or as you might have seen on many pages, it's like they do this and q equal to some other query. So I've gotten this thing. So I can maybe do it like this and q equal to. So now when I make the request, I'm going to write this. I'm going to get this some other query. So if I just want to extract the some other query from the whole thing, I can write this thing like here. Some other query. Now let's say I want to return, let's say the square of that number. So I'm going to do like this. Let query equal to this thing. Now let funds equal to, first I'm going to convert that into number. Number. Yeah. And instead of hello world, I'm going to send answer. So this time when I restart the server, and maybe I write here 5 invalid argument type. I got 25 here. So now as you can see this, I have set up a very simple server and it is running on my machine. So if I want you all to be able to access it, I can do that using ngrok. ngrok. So rather than from my local host, you are going to be able to access it. Hmm. So did you all install this? I think I put this in the message. So basically what it does is that it forwards your local host port to your internet port and it gives you a URL for it. And you can see it here. I have already installed it, so I'm just going to extend my port. It was running on port 3000. So I'm going to extend my port 3000. Port HTTP 3000. Yeah, see, I've gotten this link here. So if I just write here and q equal to say 9, I get 81. And this is very interesting because you can actually access this right now. So I'm putting this link here. So please go here and make a different request. Like this is accessible all over the internet. And I can see all your requests here. Let's see. Maybe change the value somewhere. Yeah. So what is happening is that you're making a request and my machine is receiving it right now. So as we had told earlier, a web service is just two computers talking to each other. Your computer is making a request to my server. It is it is just a program, this function. So my server, which is this function, is actually just processing it and giving a response. And I can also see it here. I think ngrok has given me this interface. Yeah. So I can see all the requests he had made. Headers, raw, binary. I can also see which device it was made from, like someone from Windows had made a request. So actually, I can see so much of data. Someone from Mac, I think this was me only. Okay, someone had opened what was from Google. And I can see the request and the response also. Yeah. So this is how a web is working. So I hope you are able to appreciate this. And if I see raw, this is actually a HTTP request. If I say raw, let me open this here. So, yeah. So this was my raw request, and this request response was this: get this HTTP 1.1 on my host, and these all these were passed by your browser to my server. All these headers, and this was the response generated by my Node.js. So that it has first given the header that I am following this HTTP 1.1 protocol. This is okay. This is the content type. So accordingly, it can pass that, and also the date and connection, the content line. That means there are 4 bytes involved in here, and it has given it there. Okay, yes, someone is putting very large numbers. Lol. So if you have understood this, you can keep playing around with it. But actually, the downside is that when I stop my server, all your requests will stop working. Like if I let's say stop it here, yeah, then now your web pages, your requests won't work because my this program which was running has stopped. Like if I try to make it now, see, failed to complete tunnel. Yeah. So if I run this again, I hope it starts working again. I see it's working now. So it is just really my this working. Okay, I have 50 connections, 2 open connections. Nice. So now let me walk you over to through the assignment for this session. This is assignment 4. So your second assignment was on Git and Bash. Your third was on game development. So this is your assignment. So for your first task is this. You must have used Moodle in your first semester, and out of that, it asks you to solve this math problems. Like if I go here, it asks me to enter the first value here. So I'm going to. So this is like a guided step where you can actually make a Chrome extension which will solve it automatically. So these are the instructions on how to make the Chrome extension. And this is just a boilerplate code. So please just follow them. And this is just a Wordle. This Moodle Plus means Moodle improved, and Wordle Plus is like Wordle improved. So the assignment is this. As you can see, have you guys played Wordle? You can maybe tell in the chat. Like this Wordle. Yeah. So you must be knowing that, yeah, this is how this game works. Guess the word in 6 tries by 5 letter word and all. Okay, this Wordle came in your majors. Nice. And then you can see that this is actually just everything is on front end. Like if they were using something secure, then actually you must see a request going here. Like no request went from here to any server. So that means all the computation, all the calculation is taking place on this server itself, on your on your browser itself. So it is using this JavaScript file. Let me try to find it here. You see the main.js file. So actually you can even get the word list from here. Like these are the word list here. And also you can get the answers from this list. So like the whole logic of that game is in the front-end JavaScript. As you can see here, the whole game is made on JavaScript only. So the problem with this thing is that someone can actually just go to the source code and read how this is working. Like I'm not sure if I can do this just right now. It will take some experimentation. Yeah, you can see this comparing each time. Hmm. Okay, you can actually try to understand the logic how the game is working. But basically the problem is that you can just understand and you can actually hack the answer from the main JavaScript file. But we are going to change it by using this server architecture. So basically what we want is that, yeah, what we want is that, yeah, the user should make a get request to your this localhost server or basically your server. And if the secret was like this, and you are going to store a secret here, like this is going to be a file, and you can see that this is very similar to the file which I had made here. Yeah, which I had made here. So basically, you're just going to run like that. So first you have to parse this query from the, let's say, the request. This will be the guess, and from the wordle logic you have to return this answer. Like it has to be green or yellow or black. Okay. So this way the user can never see the answer itself by any hack. He also has to, he will always have to play the game honestly. So I hope you have understood the point of this task. You can maybe confirm in the chat about why we need a server for this. Mm. And the third task is going to be this. Like like in the first task we had asked you to make this thing for the COVID general information, but this time you have to make the one with these charts, with the getting the live data from the other websites. Like you must be remember there was this COVID-19.org. Now they have stopped working, but basically they had all these charts, right? Like how many cases in the last this many days, which you can see here. Yeah, it was so good. So you have to make a similar website using this Chart.js library. Here is it, Chart.js. As you can see, this has many useful ways you can just give the data and plot the chart. Like just go to the samples, like pick any of them, whichever you like, and it gives you the code for that. Like this is the code. So you have to just go to this documentation, read the code, and write your own one. And also you have to like fetch this data from this COVID-19 API. You can also try to fetch it directly from the John Hopkins GitHub page. Like just maybe go here, reports, and you can see for each day they have written the report completely. So maybe rather than from that API, you can just go to the raw and try to pass it yourself. Otherwise, that is also fine using this API. And this is a very nice documentation which you can refer. And you can use the designs from your first assignment, and you can even use frameworks. And feel free to show creativity in the bonus task. And for submission, you have to first fork this repository from here. I'm going to share the link in a while. And then for the first task, you have to like edit the code in that file and then make a screenshot and insert in the README. Similarly for the second. And for the third task, you should have to deploy it using GitHub Pages. So I hope you remember how you had to deploy using GitHub Pages. We had in the first assignment. And finally, you have to fill this Google form. This one. And also attach my resources. These are the Mozilla docs for JavaScript. This is a video on JavaScript Basics. These are about objects, ES6. And these are the documentation for Postman. This actually gives you a very nice introduction to APIs. The introduction to APIs. You should watch these. And also for charges, ngrok, and GitHub Markdown. So from here, you have to just see how to insert images. Like this an image. So this is how your review will look very nice. Like you can just post screenshot of how your extension is working or how your Wordle is working. Try to try to complete this assignment before your second semester starts because you will get busy after that. So like you have many days now. Start working on it from today itself and post any doubts on the Discord server. And also once you made the Wordle thing, you can put the link to your ngrok in the Discord channel. Here. I hope you have discounted Discord server. And also you can try to host it on Heroku and make a front end for it. Let me go with the second task again. Yeah. In the second task, you just have to focus on this example to understand what we have to do. Like you're going to get a request like from here, and you just have to give this response. And for that response, you have to maybe just parse the whole string and apply your logic. Use the if-else conditions to see if that string belongs in that or not. And similarly for the Moodle assignment, you just basically have to yeah you just have to apply the string operations here on how to maybe get the answer from that question. Like the user first find a string and just see if it is first, then you have to pick this value. If it says second, you have to pick this value. You have to code that logic using strings. So I hope you have understood this now. I'm going to make this repository public so you can start working on it. Yeah, this is now public now. You can start attempting it. I'm putting the link in the chat and also I will share on the Discord server. So if there are any further doubts, you can ask on the Discord channel and we can end this session for now. So I think we will end the session now. Best of luck for the assignment.